All right, and ready to record. And I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, record.
Oh,
So
I already
one.
started.
Oh,
I
okay.
already, I already started my recording. Sorry.
Okay, we'll just say Mark. Say Mark with
Okay.
me. Mark.
Mark,
Okay. All right. There we go. Um. Yeah.
welcome in, everybody. This is new.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Now I got you. That's
Oh.
how it feels.
It is Thursday, and it's time for Who's Your Main with your favorite two co-hosts, Anthony and Jared. And I am Jared, and this is my co-host, Anthony.
I am also Jared. No, that's
No,
wrong.
no, yeah. Damn it. Well, everybody should have had Valentine's Day over the weekend.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, happy. Yeah, and this is a love letter to our lovely listeners. We were thinking about romance in video games
Ooh.
over the weekend, and we were like, "Oh man, we could do an episode on games with good romances." So we made a list and we're ready to talk about that. We'll just start at the top because we've been playing Mass Effect, as you all know, and each game has a romance option, multiple romance options.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is really one of the very first games where, that was kind of important to the story, is kind of your relationship with the crew and how you interact with them, whether that be Paragon or Renegade. Yeah, I mean, for me, Mass Effect is really one of the very first times. There's another game on this list that happened before that, but this is really one of the very first times that I can remember really feeling engrossed in that side of the story, because I think we're big, tough, burly men. We like sports and actions and guns and explosions. And then you put us on a ship and it's filled with smoking hot aliens. We're just like sweating profusely. I know you had written into your character's kind of backstory that she had a thing for Asari. And we were both cracking up laughing anytime we'd come on screen because we just imagined Joanna Shepard.
Joanna!
Just sweating profusely as soon as she saw one.
She was like, "Oh my God." There's a certain character in 2 that gets revealed, and I was just like, something has awoken in me when, I'll just say her name, her character name is Samara, and she's stepping on the neck of another Asari. And you're just like, oh, my femme shepherd almost passed out. She was like, oh, whoa.
I'll have it. I'll have one.
Yeah. But there's so many romance options in all 3 games, and some of them go on, from one game to the next to the final third, which is a really cool thing. And BioWare, I think at that point had really established some really cool like RPG romance stuff. I mean, they'd done it in Knights of the Old Republic. Depending on your gender, you could romance certain characters in the story. That was the other one. I guess I just jumped to a different one, but Mass Effects are very good romances. I mean, all of them are very endearing. Each one they're all depthy, and you can find out more about the characters aren't just surface level. You slowly find out like, oh, hey, this character that seems like a jerk actually is a jerk because of this. Oh, wow. I never would have known that if I hadn't romanced him or whatever. I mean, even if you don't romance him, you just befriend him. Maybe you're not here for the romance. Maybe you're here for the friendship. It's about the friends we made along the way to fight the Reapers.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I think something else important to point out here, too, like you said, this was one of the very first games where that was kind of a core element to it. And you could choose to not have a romance, but then also I think something that's kind of important, this game came out, what did we say, 15 years ago?
19.
Yeah. One of the very first representations of a non-traditional straight relationship. And, you can choose to interact with that and explore that, or you can completely ignore it. It doesn't matter. That's not the forefront of the story. That doesn't define any of the characters in any way, but you can learn that about certain characters. And to me, I think that's the best form of representation, is when that isn't somebody's entire personality and it's what defines them. It's something that is almost like a personal aspect of their life. All of these people are very professional military people, at least in one, and they act that way. They act as if they are professionals. And then once you get to know them, then you can kind of break down that outer wall. And it's like, okay, everybody on this ship is in like an inner circle. Yes, we are Alliance military, but we are a part of this crew. We are a part of this ship. And so to me, I think that was the part to me that stood out all those years ago that really solidified that Mass Effect's romance system was a little bit different and a little bit, not better, because it's not better or worse, but I do think it was different than some of the other BioWare iterations that had come before it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, taking from its inspiration, Star Trek, that was the first show to have, I don't know if it was the first, I think it was, Captain Kirk kissed O'Hara, a black woman, and then this game, Mass Effect 1, the first one only had the female being able to get with an Asari. The Asari is an all-female race. There was no male-on-male action until the second one, right? Is there a male, or maybe the third one?
I believe so, yeah.
Either way, I remember it being somewhat controversy at the time because I don't think they'd really had that kind of an option before. It was really interesting. Thinking back on it now, we still probably should do a retro replay of the Mass Effect, maybe the whole trilogy, because it's just such an influential piece, plural. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite games for romance. If you're talking about older games, what else do we got on that list?
I'm interested to go into the next one that you have, which is Baldur's Gate 3, and I really think they knocked it out of the park with the relationships in this game. I mean, that's literally what the game is, right? Is you and your party. It's kind of how the different dynamics work. When you first meet these people, you're literally at each other's throats, and then by the time you get to the end of the game, you're a close-knit group with ultimate trust. And in our playthrough, you were with Karlach and I was with Shadowheart. And it we obviously had our own kind of backstory and our own kind of stuff going on with that. But I mean, in my mind, Baldur's Gate 3 has to be at the top of the list of games where romance is one of the key elements, I think.
Baldur's Gate 3 is probably the best iteration of everything we're going to talk about tonight, aside from like actual romance sims. But RPG games with romance elements, this is the best iteration. They have somebody for everybody. Everybody is dateable. Everybody swings both ways. It doesn't matter. There's absolutely no discrimination at all. Of course, Baldur's Gate 3, made by Larian, taking on the reins of the older BioWare. And then just like you said, knocking it out of the park completely. And it's not like Larian had never made romances in any of their previous games. The Divinity series has romance elements that are pretty cool. I played Divinity Original Sin 2, and you can romance, all the characters can romance each other in that one as well. There's no discrimination in that one where it's like, well, you're a male, you can't romance females, or whatever, male on male, whatever. And Baldur's Gate 3 is incredible. I mean, I think everybody has their favorite character to romance. Mine is definitely Karlach. I think that probably, it's almost like a litmus test or gamer astrology, as we used to say. Like, what's your favorite class? What's your favorite weapon? What's your favorite element? And, who'd you date in Baldur's Gate 3?
Yes, exactly. Well, and we both realized that, about 3/4 of the way through our playthrough, you were going through Karlach romance and I was going through Shadowheart romance. And I was genuinely enjoying the kind of like playing up the aspect of her not facilitating my interest in her. She kind of drags you along throughout the game. And then about 3/4 of the way through the game, you meet a character. Well, you don't meet her there, but you gain a character to your party named Minthara, who is kind of like the bad choice person in the group, I guess you could say. And she, like, instantly, I was like, oh, I made the wrong choice. This is who I should have dated. She's so cool. She's so snarky and mean. And I was like, yeah, that was obviously my one regret with that game was I did follow through with the Shadowheart romance, and I enjoyed it. I did like how it ended, even though I think a lot of people don't like the way that it ends. I definitely think I would have enjoyed seeing Minthara's romance options as well.
Yeah, the replayability on that game is incredible. I mean, you can, since you can play the origin characters, which is an amazing option to be able to do, be like, oh man, I love Karlach so much, I think I'll main her this time. And then like, oh, I could get Karlach with Astarion this time. You know, I just think that's incredible. that's a thing. But yeah, if it's, I don't think that is really a spoiler that you can recruit Minthara, but Minthara is in my top 3 romance options in that game. The next is obviously Bazel. She's definitely number 2 for me. Or Lae'zel, excuse me. You gotta call her Bay. Bay is Bay.
Yeah.
I didn't give a shit about Githyanki. Okay, longtime D&D guy since the early 2000s. Like we're talking like 20 years of D&D, playing 3.5 to start. And knowing as an old GM and, knowing the monster manual back to front, knowing what Githyanki are, I was like, fuck this bitch. And then she's like 10 minutes in. It's not 10 minutes, but it felt like it. 10 minutes in, she's like, I want you. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
That was my first playthrough. See, that you've only had your one playthrough. Once you played through it a couple of times, then you can start tearing them up. But right now, you're like, oh, maybe it's Minthara. But you don't know. Maybe you romance her, and you're like, Shadowheart she still got me by the balls. I like her.
Yeah.
Or maybe you swing for Astarion or something. I don't know.
You pointed something out earlier, and it's everybody has a trope that they like, and you and I share the same one singular brain cell of like, if a woman approaches us and she's like, I want you.
Okay.
And we're both just like, yes, ma'am.
Yes, mommy.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
I've never been wanted.
Yeah. A strong, dominant woman who tells me exactly what she wants. Okay.
Starts sweating.
Yeah. Gee, well, that's literally what Karlach did to you.
Yeah, picks me up. Come on. Oh, wow.
I love this detail. I know we've talked about it before, but your character was a druid who had, you based your appearance off of that. And so you had grown a beard, but it was made not, obviously this is all stuff that we made up between ourselves, but it was green grass grown on your beard. And after you had kissed Karlach, she's, a woman literally bound in flame. She's constantly on fire. After you kissed her, your beard was singed black. Yeah. and like a little bit.
If we had dyed it black.
Yeah, and a little bit shaved off. I thought that was so funny.
I put black lipstick on him too.
Yeah. That was incredible.
If I got a screenshot, we'll pop that up on there because that was. I should put the before and after the first kiss of Karlach before you cool her off because she's too hot, and you got to help her. That's part of her quest. That's the other thing that's really good about Baldur's Gate 3 is just the depth of the personal character quests. Like you can ignore them, but most likely you will lose that character if you ignore their personal quest. And I just think that that's so interesting. They'll leave the fucking party. Some of them will just fucking die. Like, what? What a good game. That game is a fucking 10 out of 10 to me. There's some minor gripes, but we'll talk about that whenever we get to more of a deep dive of it. But
yeah.
Incredible game for role play, combat, and romance. Put that on the list. Check.
Absolutely. Well, I've got a couple on here that I'm guessing I don't think you've played these games that were on my list, so I'll talk about them quickly, like kind of in between the games that we've both shared. Have you ever played Firewatch before?
I was just getting ready to Google it. Let's see, Firewatch.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'm ready. Go ahead.
Well, I'll talk about it while you Google it. So the kind of the elevator pitch of this game is you are a divorced man whose life basically falls apart, and in order to kind of seek out solitude, you take a job as a firewatch officer. And what that means is you essentially go out into the wilderness and you climb a firewatch tower, and your job is to scan the horizon and check for fires. You go out there and your life is in shambles. You are incredibly depressed. You're doing this job literally because you want to get away from the world. And your first day on the job, your radio squelches, and there is a woman, a middle-aged woman, the same age as you, on the other end of the line. And much like you, she also has life problems, but she's much more guarded in what is wrong with her, whereas, you are kind of playing the sad puppy, and you just spill your guts at the first chance that you get. And so you and her kind of banter back and forth and do a couple of Firewatch missions. One of them is very funny. There's a fire, and you go down to put it out, and it's a bunch of teenagers drinking out in the woods. They've started a campfire, which isn't allowed, and they've gone skinny dipping. And one of the options to solve the quest is you can take their clothes and leave them stranded in the river, which is very funny. But as you progress through the story, you and this woman on the other end of the line, you start getting closer and closer, where you're flirting and you're bantering back and forth, and it's very natural, very easy, and you both kind of talk about some dark stuff, and it kind of brings you closer together without actually seeing the other person. It's 100% over the radio. And then over the course of the game, darker and darker things start happening. Things that you can't explain, and things that are, causing the tension to ratchet up, both physically with you in game, but also while you are conveying this to the woman on the radio. And I won't spoil the ending or anything like that, but I think that is a very real version of a romance. You know what I mean? Something that is born out of two mutual people coming together with, they have bad things in their past, they both have baggage, and then kind of through this shared desire to escape that, they kind of bond. And again, you never see her, while you were playing the game. It's all done through the radio. And so I just thought that was a very unique romance style, interpretation of a romance game. Incredible game. I think you can beat it in like one sitting. I think it's like 6 or 8 hours long. But yeah, very fun game, very incredible game.
I didn't know that game had a romance. That's crazy. I remember my buddy, it was an old roommate, told me to get that game and play it. And I was like, I don't want to play this game. I don't want to play that game. He was like, it's really good. Even though that guy, he was the guy that set me down like Oblivion and Skyrim and The Witcher 1. I would have never played Witcher 1 if he hadn't been like, sit down on my computer, you have to play this game from start to finish. And I was like, okay. Fucking 90 hours later, this is the greatest game ever. Wow. That's crazy. And of course, that's in vain for you. What is it, like a survival game?
Kind of, yes. Walking simulator, maybe. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Trying to put me in a box.
Going grocery shopping in the woods for parts?
Maybe.
Well, I think the next one on my list pretty much goes hand in hand with the second one on my list or whatever. And really, I think every single one of the games that I'm talking about is always referencing another one older in the series, and that's the Stardew Valley Harvest Moon. Even our friend who played Coral Island, Foxy, she played that. I think that's it's not a necessary part of Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon style games, but it's certainly a part that I really care about. You pick your sweetie, and now they got sweeties for everybody. They go both ways in Stardew Valley. Everybody, you can romance anybody you want, as far as the bachelors and bachelorettes go. Of course, Harvest Moon, the older those games are, the more it's just you're just a guy character and there's the girl characters you can romance. But I find that to be one of the more fun parts. I wouldn't want to play just a romance game. For some reason, it's got to be attached to something. And then I'm like, ooh, which sweetie will I pick?
I'm right there with you.
That was another one that you and I played together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's something tied together with that, kind of that life sim, where there's just like that that urge to find somebody else who has shared interest. Even if it's just something superficial or, you're like grasping at straws. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm also interested in that. By the way, you're very pretty. And it's like, there you go. There's the connection. And I think those life sim games lend themselves very well to that, where, that's a natural thing. A lot of people want to share, like if I'm building a homestead from nothing, obviously the first thing I'm not gonna go straight to the bar and be like, find a woman and be like, hey, help me build this house. But I do think that is a natural progression of, you want to build something and you want to share that with somebody in the town. And then I think it's also like, I don't think it's like a trap or anything like that, but it's like, oh, I moved into this town full of eligible bachelorettes who are all the same age as me and all have shared interests that I have and are all hot. Oh, wow, that's crazy. And half of them are redheads.
That's Stardew Valley. Harvest Moon 64, though, you talk about going to the bar. You could just take your dog and Max Heart, Karen, in like a day. You just keep clicking. Yeah. She's like, oh, cute dog. And then it's like bugged or whatever, and you can just get her to Max Hearts. And then we went to the bar and found a woman to help us build a house. So you're a liar.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, maybe I did do that then.
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. Who was your sweetie? Who was your sweetie in Harvest Moon, huh?
I think her name was Ellie, the baker.
Yeah. That's mine.
Because you wanted the eggs, right? You would always go, you either sold her the eggs or she wanted eggs. And I was like, I got eggs and spades, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a baker.
The other one was the ranch hand. What was her name?
Anne.
Yep. I always went for Anne.
I can't remember. Oh, Ellie had bugged dialogue in it's fucking amazing. When you would go to bed, if you talked to her, she would be like, I hope tomorrow's going to be a good day also, or something like that. I can't remember. It was some kind of bugged dialogue where it was grammatically incorrect.
Oh, no.
That was great. My wife got hit in the head.
Yeah, she's got a concussion.
She okay, baby?
Couldn't you romance the like wood fairy or like the forest fairy in that game? Or maybe I'm misremembering. Like you went up and did like a certain ritual and then she would appear?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you had to. Yeah, you had to do that, but she couldn't become your sweetie. That would be crazy. Yeah. You might as well tell the folks at home who you picked in Stardew Valley. Your main one, not the one from our weird modded stuff. Don't tell people about that.
Well, if I had my druthers, my choice, I would break up Robin from her stupid marriage, and I would take her.
Okay, you can tell them about the Robin romance. That was probably my favorite thing is when all four of us were playing, me, you, Bryce, and Lemon, and all three of you were like, well, who can we romance? You're running around town. All of you were like, I picked Robin, and I tell all of you, you can't. She's not romanceable. No.
I genuinely think, like, if it was a real situation, obviously you're not going to go up and break up a marriage in real life. But the mod was very well done. Where, there are scenes where they don't mesh. Like Demetrius is a very strange man. He's a scientific man, a scientific mind, and Robin is a very down-to-earth person. And at one point during one of her, I don't think it's a hard event, I think it's just something that happens in the game, she makes a 4-post bed. And she's like, isn't this cool? Like the craftsmanship, I made this. And her husband is like, yeah, this is stupid. And like she goes off and pouts. And it's like, dude, read the room a little bit here. And that's when I swoop in every time. And then
the spaghetti.
Yeah, the
spaghetti dinner.
Yeah. We built our houses, and I had myself, my wife's plate, which was salad, and then I had a plate off to the side, just waiting with spaghetti just in case.
Spaghetti. For Robin. Who's that for, dear? You don't worry about that.
Yeah, shush. You just worry about feeding those chickens.
You got to tell them why you picked Leah or however you say her name.
Oh yeah, because her house was next to the river, and I would go fishing every day. So she was the first person I saw.
I thought it was also because people confuse her with Robin all the time.
No, that I would never do something superficial like that.
You look like my ex-wife.
You pretty. Come on back to my farm.
Pretty baby. Yeah. I pick Abigail because she wants to fight and be in the mines. That's literally why I pick, because I always go fighting in the mines. That's the best part of the game. We're not talking about that though right now. We were just talking about the romances and who we picked in that game. And anyway, what else you got on your list?
Okay, I'm gonna you group two together, so I'm gonna group two together too, because these are very similar games. My next two are Until Dawn and the Batman Telltale Games series, and both of these are kind of the same vein, where they are very quick time event focused. They're kind of choose your own adventure games where the game will literally stop and you have to make one choice or the other, and depending on what you pick, that's how the story progresses. And Until Dawn, I think, is one of the best cheesy teen horror movie games ever made. And I word that very specifically on purpose because they made a movie that I have not seen, but I did see it got very poor reviews. But it's just a cheesy teen drama where like everybody is a trope, and depending on the choices that you make and depending on the relationships that you make, certain people will react. You know, the people that you don't control will react differently depending on how you treat them. So if you're very nice to people and you're very honest, and or in some cases you're very flirtatious, you get a different outcome than if you were, mean or a liar, or, you were off-putting. And so I think that in and of itself is a romance style, which is kind of that cheesy horror movie where the teenagers get punished for going out into the woods and having sex. And it's like, damn you, premarital sex heathens. And then they get attacked by, what appears to be at first a very cheesy villain, and then it becomes something much more serious. And then on the flip side of that coin, the Batman games, the Telltale games always do a very good job of having drama. But I think the Batman games specifically, because how you treat people correlates to what they become, that allows you to, for instance, you can romance Selena Kyle, and Selena Kyle is Catwoman, and she can kind of tone down her villainous ways because Batman is in a relationship with her. But then another in my mind, a very interesting thing that you can do is you can befriend, I think his name in the game is Jack Napier. He's the Joker. You can befriend him, and that will make his Joker tendencies less violent or less unpredictable. Whereas if you're mean to him, because the game tells you right at the beginning of the game, this is the Joker, how are you going to treat him? And then that determines what kind of Joker he becomes. Same thing with the Riddler, very similar. He reacts in a similar way. So it's a interesting dynamic of, that these people are Batman's rogue galleries, but then when you become Bruce Wayne, how you treat them affects how they react to Batman. And I think that's a really cool, maybe not necessarily romance you kind of do with Selena Kyle, but that's a very cool dynamic of how you treat people as how the game changes. And I thought that was really cool.
That just makes me think about Arkham City. God damn, Selena Kyle. What is that suit painted on? Hey, Bruce, does yours look painted on too, just a matter of fact?
Yeah.
Gotta stare at you the whole game, too. Yeah, that's funny. I would... Until Dawn, I think I've heard about that one. That's a horror game, okay? Those are classic tropes. Those are classic horror tropes. And I feel like if the movie got bad reviews, that's just because it's a fucking horror movie, and they always get bad reviews. They'd be like, what is this, a classic slasher? 3 out of 10. Okay. My wife loves those kind of movies.
Yeah, it's a double whammy because it's a horror movie and it's a video game movie. And so it pissed everybody off.
Yeah,
I
perfect.
think. Again, I haven't seen it, so I can't say, but the game is very good.
You're going to have to watch it. You have to watch. That's going to be your homework.
Okay. I'm not scared. I'll do it.
I'm going to make my wife watch it. I'm going to be like, hey, honey, you got to watch this for me. And tell me if it's good.
I'm going to cover my eyes.
I don't want to watch a slasher.
Yeah, he scared me.
I'm scared. I'm going to go in the other room and play Harvest Moon.
Yeah, kiss my sweetie.
and they were kissing. And
they were boys.
they were both boys. And they were kissing.
Yeah. Can we include Space Marine 2? Because you and
brother.
Lemon were over there smooching.
We were smooching. You better leave us alone. We were boys and we were smooching. Yeah, Space Marine 2, by the way, totally caught me off guard because I don't really look up stuff about games anymore before I play them if I can. That game having an in-depth like character customization type thing going on. Like pick your class, pick your weapons, and then the weapons can be fucking chosen and builds can be made. And I was like, bruh, bruh. Wow.
Yeah.
The next games, plural, on my list come from the Final Fantasy world. Because there are several Final Fantasy games where the romance is kind of the key point of the game. And just to start, Final Fantasy VIII, there's a heavy romance. I mean, even the freaking symbol for Final Fantasy VIII is Squall and Rinoa like holding each other, and it's a big romance story with a lot of like side romances stuff kind of going on. But I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. Final Fantasy IX, big romance story between Zidane and, I think they call her Dagger to start off with. I can't remember her name now that I said that. Good job.
Good.
Final Fantasy IX, Dagger. It's Garnet. Jesus. Anyway, that's got a big like love song as the main song. Voice from the past, joining yours and mine. That one's a big love story, almost Disney. And then the last love story from Final Fantasy that I really consider being like the main motivator through the game, Final Fantasy X with Tidus and Yuna. That's a big one. I mean, technically, Final Fantasy VII's got a kind of pretty important like love story, but it's not as important in my mind. But yeah, I mean, like without Tidus, what happens to Yuna would happen, you know. So, like, I don't want to spoil that either because we're talking about some of my favorite games. But to reference an even older game that I've not gotten all the way through. But is in the same, since it's in the same household, Square Enix, before they weren't, Dragon Quest V has a really intense, like, love story thing that you can do where you can pick from, I think in the latest version, which was on the DS or 3DS maybe, there's 3 different brides you can pick, and that determines, like, your kids and stuff and what happens later in the story. It's pretty, that game is revolutionary. Had the first like creature collection, then it's got like fucking marry your wife scenario kind of thing. It's crazy. It's a crazy game. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a core element to Square games, Enix games, and Square Enix games. I think they do such a good job. Like you said, maybe that's not the central theme, but that is certainly a key part of most of the characters. They have some element of especially the main protagonist, and then like the girl. There always seems to be like guy and girl, and then the team. And I think sure you can say that that's a trope and it's overdone, but I love every single one of those stories that you just mentioned. Like the romance and the characters are unique enough that every single time it's a great story, and I care about each one of those individually. Even though, like you said, it's a, maybe it's a side story or it's a, maybe like an afterthought. But yeah, I think in 10, that's the whole point of the game. And so to me, I really like those. I think those are really good examples.
There's a really amazing scene in 10 that really just like explodes the love story. I definitely don't want to spoil it, but I can remember it very distinctly when I first saw it. and being like, oh my God, we're smooching.
Yeah.
This is a smooch.
Yeah.
The big smooch scene. Anyway, the old those old games are really, really great. There's one more game that I can think of that I wanted to talk about, but really two, I guess. One series and one game that I played just like on a whim as a kid because of how much I loved dragons. This game was called Dragon Valor on the PlayStation. And it on the back, I remember reading it at the store on the back of the jewel case, deciding if I should buy this game with my Christmas money or whatever I had. And it's like, yeah, you get a family and you defend it from the dragons. And I was like, wow, is this Harvest Moon but with dragons? So I bought it. And the game is about how you start out as this one guy and you go through the story chasing a dragon because he killed your whole fucking everything. And you're like, oh, I get me a wife. And so there's two wives you can pick from. And then that determines the next part of the story, which is you die of old age and your kid picks up your sword and goes chasing the dragon. And that continues to happen through the game. Like your next character gets to pick a wife, then he gets to have a kid, and then that kid chases the dragon until the end of the game. And I think that was just a crazy game to me. It's like, what is this romance? I'm killing my guy over and over. So it's a bloodline versus a dragon, which is insane. I just thought it was an insane game.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's a cool mechanic. I like that.
It's a fucking action game. It was an action game.
Well, I've got three here I'm going to talk about. We were putting this list together and we were like, we don't really play.
Yeah.
We don't really play romance games.
We don't play romance games.
We don't play dating sim games. And then I looked through my list and I was like, oh, I actually have 3 platinums from dating sim games. So I'll just burn through these real quick. The first one is kind of a meme, I guess you could say. It's Doki Doki Literature Club. And if you've never played this game before, I won't spoil anything, but it is a dating sim game where you are a high school aged boy and you are a part of a literature club where you are with 4 other girls and you write poems, and then you kind of meet together and you read your poems to each other. And I won't spoil anything. I won't give any kind of details on when it happens, but it's a dating sim and a psychological horror game. I'll say that. So very fun, very engaging, very short. That was really fun. And then the next one is Helltaker, and this is a puzzle game where you wake up one day and you decide you want to start a harem with demons from hell. And you go and battle demons in hell, and after you beat them, they join your harem. And it's not sexual or anything like that. It's purely, the point that you are doing it is because you want pancakes. And you figure the more women that you get, the better pancake recipes you can get. And so you go and battle these demons from hell in puzzles, and when you win, they join you, and then you go to the next one until you get to the very end. You get to the Queen of Hell, and you battle her, and you win. And well, I guess I'm spoiling the ending there. The game is literally like 30 minutes long or an hour long. You get to the end, you battle her, you win, and you get pancakes. Incredible game. Very fun, very funny, very lighthearted. And then the last one, kind of in that same vein, it's a dating sim for you find a book and you accidentally summon Cthulhu, and Cthulhu is a woman, and then you start dating her so she doesn't destroy the Earth and all of the humanity. And it's very funny because she comes out and it's this demonic, all black silhouette, glowing eyes, evil, ominous, and she's like, "Who dares summon me?" And then, like your 3 options pop up, and I think one of them was just like, "Whoa, you're hot." And, obviously I clicked that one. And then it, like, her picture comes in, and it's like, she's like a woman with, like, tentacle, she's a mind flayer looking creature. From,
good.
Baldur's Gate. And so her picture comes in, and she's like, "Oh, what? Why did you say that?" And then it's just really funny. It's again, a very short game.
That one's called, what is that one called?
That was called Sucker for Love. It was very funny. I think that's kind of my jam, is like, I don't really like romance in the sense of like, oh, we're being romantic. I like humor in mine. So that's kind of my my trope, I guess.
Folks, just so you know, all 3 of those games are free on Steam.
Yes.
You can go and play Doki Doki Literature Club, Helltaker, and Sucker for Love for free and have this experience that he has had.
And most importantly, you can get trophies.
Well, that was the main motivator there, I think, for you.
It was.
You're like, wait a minute. Is this a 30-minute game with trophies? I guess I'll play through it real quick.
I guess I could smooch some girls. Ugh.
I was thinking, well, we were making that list too. I was like, man, neither of us play dating sims. And then we both kind of sat there for a second, and then it was like, you played Doki Doki Literature Club, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well. I may or may not have. Yes.
Perfect. Wonderful. What was I thinking? Like, as far as like dating sims that started out as one game and then became like almost another game. It was the Fire Emblem series. They went from like hardcore, if you put your guy in the wrong spot, they die for real in the game, to, okay, who you going to ship together so you can get the perfect kid characters, and then you have to watch all these romances because you got to make sure that they mesh really well. And then it just became like a matchmaker, the game, as the series went on. Now that's a love story with a little bit of RPG mixed in.
Yeah. That I remember those games back when they were on, the handheld devices, Game Boy Advance and stuff like that, and there was none of that in those games. And so
there was a little bit.
Well, not when I played. We were out there. We were doing business. We were out there for business. And so to see that my Final Fantasy Tactics had turned into some dating sim, I snuffed my nose up at that.
Yeah, so the first one that came to America was Fire Emblem 7, I believe. I can't remember what it's called, but it was just called Fire Emblem. It was just titled Fire Emblem, as if it were the first one. It wasn't. And very difficult game, but you can totally put 2 characters next to each other, and when they battle next to each other, they get like friendship points. And it could be 2 boys together, 2 girls together, whatever. As those friendship points go up, they get better stat boosts when they're fighting and stuff. So having those relationships was really important strategically. But then it became more like, we went to Fire Emblem 8, and it was like, oh, there's these kid characters you can get if you have these 2 characters, together. And then Awakening happened on the DS, or the 3DS, I should say, because the DS had different games. But the 3DS, Fire Emblem Awakening, that was the one where it was like, all right, so we're young, but in the future, our kids come back from the future as adults to help us save the world, but you have to, the only way to get the kids is to pair them off, and then you get the kid character. It was amazing. That was an amazing game. I liked it. It's even worse in Fates. Fates was even more. It was just like so much dating. I was just like, I'm so tired. I just want to get to the fights. I'm tired of fucking making them date each other. God damn it.
Those games went off the rails. They completely lost the plot. They were insane.
I just remember, I don't know why we didn't talk about this. Because now that I'm thinking about it, after talking about Dragon Valor and Fire Emblem, why aren't we talking about Massive Chalice?
Oh, yeah.
Now that's what a fucking ride that game was, You pick your first 3 houses, and then it's generation after generation have to defend this fucking chalice from the darkness. Oh my God, you had to pair off the houses so that the good bloodlines don't die. Oh, that was some strategy mixed in with my dating, which there was not, you didn't get to see any like relationship stuff happening. It was just like, you 2 have to be together so we win. I remember that. That was a fucking incredible game. That game was awesome. I'm going to play it again.
I completely forgotten about that. You streamed kind of the final fight, the last wave or whatever.
It was like the middle to the end of the game, yeah.
And man, that was incredible. I remember that game, but I think it was you and Bryce that played it.
Yeah, yes.
But you streamed it for us and we watched it. It was incredible.
Yeah, I signed you all a house. I don't want to spoil how the last battle like works because that was such a cool twist. But like all throughout the game, like you make sure you get like some of the best guys bred or whatever, and then each generation has like a hero, and they die of old age as you play through the game, which is insane. You'll be like, no, fucking Smacker McSteve died. He was our best Whomper. Oh my God. It was so cool. What a good game.
I feel like that used to be a really big trope. I'm talking back in the 90s, especially in Japan, where they would, it was very much about your blood type, and that would determine your physical qualities and who you should. It was kind of like horoscopes are now, where it would be like this blood type should date this blood type and stuff like that. That used to be a mechanic that was in a lot of games. I mean, romance and getting the offspring to carry on the talents of the previous generation. And that's not really a thing anymore. I guess it is. We're talking about these games, but yeah, that used to be much bigger.
Yeah, blood typing being a horoscoping type thing. Yeah, that's still a thing. It's like, what blood type are you? I'm this. Well, this means this about you, and you need to eat this kind of food. Huh?
What?
What? I think we didn't talk about it, but just real quick before we'll round this off on one of the more interesting romance games is the Witcher series 1, 2, and 3. Considering its source material, the first game being really, really loose, like Geralt being really loose with all the women that he comes in contact with, kind of reflecting some of the first stories of Geralt. I think that book collection is called The Sword of Destiny. I think it's been a while since I thought about the titles of the books. And Geralt's kind of loose, and then two really focuses on the relationship with Triss, and then there's then the third one. The third one, there's a lot of different relationships that you can pursue, which is really interesting. That game really dives into those characters very in depth, and it's very fun to watch because a lot of those characters were from the books. I don't think there's any character from just the games, except for Essie. No, Priscilla's her name in the game. Essie is Geralt's first like love from the books. Little Eye is what she's called, and Priscilla is a reference to her, a bard that traveled with Dandelion that was somewhat infatuated with Geralt, but in the book she's really infatuated. They like have a thing, but way before he gets with everybody else he gets with. That was like his first one in the books. But it's talking about the books. Don't let me do that.
Yeah, stop it. I think I'll jump in here because I had the opposite experience that you had, which is you came into, I guess I should say, when we both did our Death March playthrough together, you came into it with the experience of you had already played 1 and 2, and you were now playing 3. You were reading the books simultaneously while playing it.
Yeah, I finished them by then.
Yeah, at that point, so you had finished the books at that point. I was coming in, I had played 2, I had played a little bit of 1, and I'm coming into this almost with a fresh, open mind. And my perspective of the game was 3 did a very good job of expressing the kind of classical tale of the adventurer on the road who comes into a town, and Geralt is objectively, like, he's portrayed as a very handsome man in the show and in the games, but you can tell he's not meant to be that. He's meant to be a very gruff, dirty, like, he's a man, that's
the handsome he is, though. He's rough.
yeah, he's a rough, haggard, manly, masculine man, and he comes into town and all of the women fawn over him because, it's like he's new, he's different, he's not like everybody else. And so it's not that he is necessarily charismatic. He's definitely not charismatic. But he essentially has pick of the litter of these women, especially like some of them are very powerful women. And I thought they did a very good job of portraying that, kind of that experience of you can play him as the bachelor who travels around and goes from tavern to tavern and hooks up with chicks, or the way you and I played him, which is very monogamous and very attached to one woman. And
the main woman, and very much to the scorn of if you even looked at anyone else. And I genuinely, I still have this. I have a screenshot of the end of one of the DLCs of Witcher 3. I won't spoil it or say what happens or anything like that, but I took a screenshot because I genuinely think the end of that was one of the greatest hero endings in all, not just in video games, in all of literature and media. I probably took about an hour and just sat with the controller down and just absorbed what the ending was. And I was so happy with how it the circumstances of what it was. It was just perfect. And so, yeah, I think that is a very good example of not only romance in the sense of you can have that monogamous relationship and you can pursue that throughout the length of the game, but also the idea of just being like a man on the road. And it's like, hey, I'm going to a bar, I'm going to get blackout drunk, and if I hook up, I think in one of the situations you hook up with a mage, and she even says, like, this is just a fling, like, this means nothing. And Geralt's like, okay, well, I mean, it's fine with me, And so, like, I think that both of those examples are there in that game, and they're represented very well. Yeah. I mean, it's an old Arthurian-inspired tale. That's part of it. But, yeah, Geralt being... I always thought that Geralt in Witcher 3 got the Hollywood suntan treatment. Like, why has he got so much pigment in his face? What the fuck?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, he's got like long flowing white hair that's like perfectly tamed, and it's like think about like the life of being on the road. You would need to put that in a ponytail because it would get stuck on things.
He wears a headband in the book.
Exactly. And then the other part of that is you would be unwashed, unkempt. You're telling me every strand of hair is in place and it's like perfectly kempt and not matted, not, disgusting or filthy or stinky.
There's several scenes in the book where he has to like put on regular people clothes and go to parties and not wear his headband, and he just fucking hates it. He hates it. He's like, why can't I at least wear my headband? And Yennefer, who's with him, she's like, shut up and quit a fucking playing. What the fuck is your problem?
I think one of my favorite scenes in The Witcher 3 in the entire game is you go to a funeral with Yennefer, and Geralt is shamelessly hitting on her. Yeah. And she's like swatting him in the arm, and she's like, shut up, we're at a funeral.
Shut up.
And he's like, well, you smell lovely at a funeral.
Yeah, he's like, you smell wonderful. And she's like, stop, Geralt, we're at a funeral. And he's like, you smell wonderful at this funeral.
It's every man with like his woman. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, this isn't the time or the place, so she's swatting you, and it's just like, what did I do?
That's funny every time to me.
Yes,
I don't care how many times I play through that game. I laugh at that scene every single fucking time. Well, I think we've expended the time for this Thursday, and we hope that you all have had a lovely time. What kind of dialogue option are you going to pick for this one?
It's been a long time. I think I'm just going to do the bog standard. See ya.